Investing $10,000 today begins with mindset rather than mechanics. Over the next 10 years, patience, restraint, and clarity matter far more than clever predictions, market timing, or frequent adjustments driven by emotion or headlines. Before investing any amount, the time horizon must be defined honestly. A 10-year window changes how volatility, drawdowns, and uncertainty should be interpreted, reducing emotional reactions to temporary losses. Long-term investing succeeds when behavior is prioritized over tactics. Most outcomes are shaped by discipline during uncomfortable periods, not by perfect entries, forecasts, or short-term optimization strategies. The first principle is simplicity. Simple approaches are easier to follow during market stress and reduce the likelihood of emotional mistakes when prices move unexpectedly. 10 years is enough time for compounding to work quietly in the background. That benefit only materializes when avoidable mistakes, impatience, and overreaction are minimized consistently. Another principle is consistency. Investing should be treated as a repeated behavior across many years, not a single decision driven by confidence or short-term optimism. Volatility will appear many times over a decade. It is not a signal to act when expectations are aligned with long-term intent and preparation is adequate. Risk is often misunderstood. True risk is not price movement, but being forced to change plans at the wrong time due to poor preparation or emotional pressure. Before investing, safety money must be separated from growth money. Capital intended for long-term investing should never be needed for short-term expenses or emergencies. Emotional discipline determines long-term outcomes. Decisions made calmly must remain intact during stress, uncertainty, and periods of widespread fear. Another key idea is patience with inactivity. Long stretches of doing nothing often protect results better than frequent adjustments or constant monitoring. $10,000 should be invested with humility. Markets are unpredictable, and confidence should come from preparation rather than certainty or control. Short-term narratives should be ignored. News creates urgency that rarely aligns with long-term value or rational investment behavior. Time in the market matters more than timing the market. Waiting for perfect conditions often delays compounding and increases regret. Understanding what you own reduces panic. Clarity builds confidence when prices fluctuate without warning or explanation. Another principle is alignment with temperament. Strategies must fit emotionally to remain sustainable through uncertainty over 10 years. Comparing results with others introduces pressure. That pressure often undermines discipline and leads to unnecessary changes. Long-term investing rewards boredom. Quiet periods allow compounding to work without interference or emotional reaction. $10,000 does not require complexity. Over-engineering increases the chance of behavioral mistakes and inconsistency. Before allocating funds, expectations must be realistic. Progress will be uneven, and patience will be tested repeatedly. Another idea is focusing on quality. Durable businesses and broad exposure matter more than constant rotation or novelty. Commitment to process outweighs short-term outcomes. Consistency across market cycles compounds quietly over time. Attention must be protected carefully. Noise competes with patience and often wins when boundaries are weak. The next 10 years will include downturns. Preparation determines whether downturns feel threatening or manageable. Avoid reacting to every price movement. Most movements do not require decisions when the plan is sound. Investing success often feels slow early on. Early restraint prevents regret later. Another principle is long-term focus. Thinking in decades reduces emotional reactions to short-term events. $10,000 benefits more from time than precision. Compounding favors endurance over cleverness. Before choosing assets, behavior must be chosen. Behavior compounds quietly across the decade. This approach begins by thinking clearly. Action follows, guided by patience, discipline, and structure. Discipline is the defining factor in long-term investing. Knowledge fades under stress, but habits remain. Over 10 years, discipline determines whether a sound plan survives boredom, volatility, fear, and repeated moments of uncertainty that tempt investors to abandon consistency. Markets test patience relentlessly. Declines, recoveries, and sudden news challenge confidence repeatedly. A disciplined investor treats these moments as normal conditions rather than signs of failure or reasons to rewrite a carefully considered plan during emotional discomfort. Early success can be as dangerous as losses. Gains create confidence that encourages unnecessary risk-taking. Discipline means resisting expansion or complexity after short-term wins, and remembering that favorable outcomes do not validate abandoning long-term structure. Losses challenge discipline differently. They create urgency and emotional pressure. Discipline keeps decisions aligned with preparation rather than fear, preventing temporary declines from turning into permanent damage through reactive behavior. Regret is another powerful disruptor. Watching missed opportunities tempts investors to chase late entries. Discipline protects against regret-driven decisions that usually result in buying high, selling low, and breaking long-term consistency. Long-term investing requires emotional neutrality. Prices should be information, not judgments of intelligence or worth. When identity becomes tied to outcomes, discipline weakens and decisions become defensive instead of intentional. Routine supports discipline over long horizons. Scheduled contributions, defined review intervals, and information boundaries reduce emotional decision-making. Routine replaces motivation, which fades unpredictably during extended periods of uncertainty. Periods of stagnation are unavoidable. Markets may move sideways for years. Discipline means continuing planned behavior even when progress feels invisible, understanding that compounding often accelerates after long stretches of apparent inactivity. External pressure undermines discipline. Quietly, media, peers, and online commentary amplify urgency. Filtering outside voices and returning attention to personal goals preserves clarity when others encourage reaction over reflection. Discomfort is part of long-term investing. Feeling uneasy does not mean the plan is broken. Often, it signals behavior that differs from the crowd, which is uncomfortable but frequently necessary for endurance. Discipline also accepts imperfection. Missed contributions or minor mistakes do not invalidate the process. Abandoning structure after small errors causes far more damage than calmly correcting course and continuing forward. Reviewing mistakes without judgment strengthens discipline. Learning replaces shame. Shame leads to avoidance, while learning improves future decisions without emotional weight that interferes with consistent execution. Time contributes unevenly to results. A small number of years often generate most long-term returns. Discipline ensures you remain invested when those years arrive, rather than stepping aside after disappointment. Patience is active restraint, not passivity. Choosing not to act is often the hardest decision. Discipline makes restraint possible when action feels urgent and emotionally justified. Confidence should come from preparation, not recent performance. Performance fluctuates, preparation endures. Discipline relies on systems designed in calm moments rather than feelings produced by short-term outcomes. Fatigue erodes discipline gradually. Long-term investing can feel repetitive and unrewarding. Discipline sustains behavior when enthusiasm fades and novelty disappears. Clear goals reinforce discipline. Knowing why you are investing reduces temptation to deviate during emotional periods. Purpose anchors behavior when uncertainty intensifies. Boundaries protect discipline. Limiting portfolio checks, news consumption, and social comparison preserves mental clarity over long periods and reduces impulsive reactions. Long-term success often feels anticlimactic. Quiet progress lacks excitement. Discipline allows satisfaction without drama, preventing unnecessary changes driven by boredom or impatience. Uncertainty never disappears. Discipline exists because certainty does not. Planning replaces prediction as the guiding force behind consistent behavior. Small, disciplined actions compound invisibly. Over 10 years, repeated restraint builds momentum that becomes difficult to disrupt once established. Avoid redefining goals mid-cycle without reason. Discipline means honoring commitments made during calm periods instead of rewriting plans during stress. Markets reward endurance. Investors who remain calm through multiple cycles benefit from compounding that others interrupt through emotional decisions. Discipline includes knowing when not to optimize. Constant adjustment often reduces stability. Stability supports long-term participation more reliably than continuous improvement attempts. Waiting is a competitive advantage. Discipline turns waiting into a skill rather than a weakness, allowing time to work without interference. Long-term investing favors boring behavior. Boring decisions avoid costly excitement and preserve capital for compounding. Investing $10,000 over 10 years is not about brilliance. It is about staying aligned with your plan when emotions demand deviation. The greatest risk is abandoning discipline. Most failures are behavioral, not market-driven. Discipline protects against self-inflicted damage. Over a decade, discipline outweighs asset selection. Assets change, cycles repeat, but behavior compounds steadily. In the end, the objective is simple. Invest with clarity, structure, and discipline, then allow time to do the heavy lifting without interference.